So we need to show teachers why inclusion is important practically. Now there's a question. Why is this important practically? So I'm going to tell you in 10 minutes. Do you believe me? You're like, I don't know, Shelley. Okay. There is a metaphor that I realized, sleepless nights, that is the perfect example of showing people why inclusion matters, but practically. In a classroom, in a school, in a staff room, in this room right now. And it is bowling. What's the goal of bowling? You want to knock down all the pins or as many as you can. So if you want to knock down the pins or as many as you can, sometimes you roll it down the aisle and you get them all and that feels awesome. And sometimes you get some of them, but it's okay because you have another chance. Now in 10-pin bowling, you get 2 balls, okay? 2 balls. So if I want to knock down all of the pins, let's just walk through this together. I have the ball, I kind of go up to the lane. Where do I throw the ball if I wanted to hit all the pins? The middle or a little off? A little off. So those arrows on the ground, I like to aim at kind of like the arrow to the right of the center. Because I'm a little bad. I like to not follow the rules sometimes. So anyways, you roll it down the middle, and like I say, sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. But if you do roll it down the middle and you don't knock them all down, what pins are often left standing? The outsides. So this is called the 7-10 split. Now the 7-10 split is the hardest shot in bowling. You can be an amateur or a professional or an Olympic. Is there bowling in the Olympics? You can have your PhD in bowling. You can get coached, you can practice, you can get feedback. It is still the hardest shot in bowling. So I really wanted this metaphor to work, so I did my research. Professional bowling has been televised for 55 years, okay? How many times in 55 years has that shot been made successfully on television? 3. That's it. It has only been made successfully 3 times. It is almost impossible. Because what you have to do is you have to throw the ball, it has to hit the outside of one of the pins, but if you miss, you get the gutter, and you don't get either. But if you get it, it shoots the pin off the backboard. I didn't even know there was a backboard. And it pops out and hits the other pin. It is so hard that what even professionals do is usually they like kind of step back and they're like, the split. And they choose one. They do the safe way and they throw it down and they get one. And then there's a pin left standing, staring at you. Here's my question. 1 minute with your neighbor. How is bowling like teaching? We aim for the middle, absolutely. We aim for the middle, and then we try and get what's left over. But if we think about this in terms of the ball is the teacher or the lesson or the curriculum, and the pins are the kids, we kind of like throw our lesson at them. We get kind of most of them, but then the kids that are left, well, we used to have an EA that could get one, and then we could get the other. And we used to have supports that were the bumper guards, but then those are taken away last year. And so we kind of do the best that we can, but who are the pins left standing? There are kids that need the most support, and there are kids that need the most challenge. And they stare at us. And so the chances of getting both of them are very, very slim. And so we have to choose sometimes. But the reality is we do the best we can. We're professionals, we're masters, we're PhDs, we're coached, we get feedback. But the reality is there's pins left standing at the end of the day. You can be the best teacher in the world, and there's pins left standing. So I call it the professional bowler, and I'm like, I've noticed that you never throw the ball down the middle, and I just want to know why. Like, why don't you do that? And he goes, well, if you think about it, bowling is just a game of the domino effect, right? So one pin knocks another pin down, which knocks another pin down. So the bigger domino effect is if you have contact with the most pins at initial point of contact. I'm like, okay, like that makes sense. So the more pins you hit initially, the bigger the domino effect. I totally get that. So he goes, if you aim at the middle, you'll hit the head pin and maybe the head pin's neighbor. So probably your initial contact is 1 or 2 pins. So it's not very many when you have 10 pins. So he said, if you can come in from the side, you can have initial contact sometimes with 4 or 5 pins, which will then cause a bigger domino effect. I'm like, okay, that makes sense, I get it. But he says if you were to throw the ball straight at that angle, you'd have to be 2 lanes over. And that's just not the game. So you have to curve it so that it enters in that angle, but from the lane that you're in. I'm like, okay. So then here's my next question. If you're throwing it at an angle, where do you aim the ball? Because you don't aim at the middle, because it has to come in from the side. You see where I'm going with this? Guess what professional bowler said? Professional bowler said, and let this sink in for a second, you aim for the pins that are the hardest to hit. Think about that for a second. It is more statistically strategic, effective, and efficient if you don't aim at the head pin, but you aim for the outside pins. So now this makes things fuzzy for me because I don't know about you, but when I went to school and when I went through teacher education, we are taught to aim at the head pin. We are taught to teach to the kids that have 2 parents, the kids that have 3 meals a day with not too many carbs, that have hypoallergenic dogs and limited screen time, who go on after-school science walks and collect leaves for their journal, who take a year off of school because their parents want to take them on an experiential life vacation. We teach to the kids, they don't even need us. They have their gel pens. If we didn't even show up, they would get 86%. We teach the kids that need us the least. Because we love aiming for the head pins. We love it. Because they're the goers. And you know what? Go with the goers. But we have to change our aim if this inclusive education thing is going to work. Because it actually is easier and more strategic and more effective and more efficient to have the diversity in the classroom. But if it's going to work, we have to change our aim.